Greetings, family. So good to be back. Today's video is going to be covering a few things. This was going to be the day 7 review of the mung bean soup detox. However, a number of things transpired that day, including technology not cooperating. The meaning that I gave it was that it was not an accident. And yeah, I basically took it in stride as, okay, what I'm going to do instead of recording my video journal for day 7 is I'm going to take a week of integration. It was also my birthday week and a very stressful week as I was taking on a new role with a new company. And so what I'm going to share with you what I recall from day 7. Probably won't recall everything. It'll probably be pretty high level. But what we'll be mostly covering is what has transpired this past week, which has been a lot of learnings, a lot of polarity, a lot of revelations, and a lot of gratitude, a lot of love, a lot of breakthroughs, some tears. Did I cry this week? I was on the verge of crying many times. I know that I've been in some states of deep sadness and rage and emotions such as that. Confusion, overwhelm. So day 7 was a week prior to this, last Saturday. I was ending a house sit, or I was towards the end of it. And yeah, I just remember going into that day being like, part of me was like, yes, this is the last day. We just have to fight through this thing, and then we'll be able to do whatever we want, right? Then I remembered that there was a protocol for going through the second half of the detox. So the actual detox technically is only half of the program. The other half is the process of weaning back onto different types of food, if you choose to do so. I could see why many, after experiencing the benefits of that week, would want to continue with that particular diet. And me in particular, there were definitely some things that I wanted to reward myself with, like some good old like bliss balls. There's some really yummy bliss balls that a local artist makes. I don't know, they just hit different than anything else. The interesting thing is it was more delicacies that I craved. Delicacies that were high quality, and that it wasn't like, I really didn't crave like greasy saturated foods like pizza and things like that. Really didn't have that desire. I'm telling you, once you take on this like just very light feeling, it's just different, especially if you're in the process of where I'm at in life, where I'm kind of leaning back from like the go, and I think through conversations with other people, again, different foods provide fuel for different things, different intentions and embodiments in your life. And so if I were wanting to like go, gung ho into a new project that required like a lot of power to get done in a short amount of time, then meat would have probably helped. And I don't know that as a fact. I just, whenever I eat meat, I experience a lot of power and wanting to. What I notice when I eat meat versus what happened with mung bean is, again, it's a very fleeting power. So it's honestly like something that the body wants to expel almost immediately, especially if you eat too much of it. But when you eat meat, I really, really do feel like it's a capacity thing, because I can still eat like a light amount of meat and still feel light and have a sense of power, but the body not want to expel it immediately. What I do know is that you just have a lot of power and it wants to be channeled in some way, some tangible way, some physical exercised way. Whereas the energy and the power that I get through the mung bean recipes and the smoothies and the detox that I went through was mung bean provides this more sustainable, prolonged power. So it's kind of like the hourglass, it's not just all dumping at once. It's gradually transmuting. So yeah, and then I talked to this part that was just dying to get through the day, and I know that's not how I want to approach things. I spoke to this part in a way that had urgency, and it was kind of like I could tell it was hanging on to the future, right? It wasn't fully present. And it was like, oh, I can't wait till tomorrow. I can't wait. Oh, all these things. I'm going to do all these things. When I finally have the freedom to eat these things. And so I acknowledged it and I brought it back to the present. And I was like, hey, I'm really excited for those things too. And I'd like to not give our power to that. I'd like to so much to the future. What if, then I tapped into the reality. I was like, what if this is indefinite? What if there actually is no definitive end to this program and it wasn't 7 days? How would we feel then? Will we be open to that? And as soon as I just allowed that and I invited that and accepted that as a potential reality, it ceased. That anxiousness that was like clinging on to the tomorrow was gone. It just started dissolving and fading in my body. So again, it's not about, oh, am I going to make it to the end? Am I going to make it to the top of the mountain? It's how present can you be during the climb? Number one, for survival. Number two, to acknowledge the beauty of each step and each layer of the climb, of the journey. Whenever you're hiking, you want to take time to turn around and acknowledge the beauty behind you, the vistas, the expansion, right? Like, yes, there's going to be probably this miraculous view at the very peak. And then you get to see if there's another peak, but there's always some kind of a dip, right? And there's always some kind of a valley. Unless, again, you just somehow figure out how to fly and you just fly from peak to peak. But what's the fun in that? Right? So there are new levels, new valleys. And I feel like this following week was definitely that valley. We dipped into this valley and it was very interesting. I was transitioning from one house sit to the next. This is this is the next house sit that I went on. And I met the owners before they left town. And one thing that they offered me, which is really sweet, was to buy me groceries for the week while they were gone. And they were asking me what I wanted and things like that. And I noticed I didn't want to be a huge inconvenience, so I asked for mung beans, but they said it was hard to find the other ingredients, so I just went ahead and bought those myself. And I said, "Don't worry about it. Just get like all these other meals that can sustain me." But I was focused again more on convenience than my true health and wellness and what my body truly needed and wanted. So I got a bunch of old things that like really don't serve me. And then they had a smorgasbord of, I hope I said that correctly. I don't know if I did. They had a array of different foods themselves, and they eat pretty clean. They have like little smoothie packs and like these little smoothie ninja bullets that you can blend up real quick, and they got me some fish and things like that because someone just told me to get fish. I guess because I wanted to wean back onto meat, but have it be like a lighter experience. And yeah, so I was like, man, this is going to be a challenge because they also had a lot of snacks that were not the healthiest of snacks. And I was like, man, this is going to be a challenge for me coming off my detox. So at the same time, when I moved in here, I was also ramping up with a company that, again, they placed me in a role which was new to me. I had to learn some new skills. I was, in a way, thrown into the fire. And while learning how to do stop, drop, and roll after being thrown in the fire, I also had to, at the same time, had to instruct others to teach them how to stop, drop, and roll to put out the fires as well. So that was extremely stressful. And so it put me in this perfect simulation of, all right, we're in like a deep, stressful environment with all these obligations. And then we have all these vices and so it tested me, really did. And so full transparency, vulnerability, that's why we're here always, is I medicated hard. I resisted as much as I could. I also felt the emotions as much as I could, and I fell back into the thing. I fell back into the pattern of doing something that was so stressful, where I was abandoning my inner peace, I was abandoning my presence, I was abandoning my art, and creating content like this. And I really think, again, the technical difficulties I was having with my computer to record this was probably part of the whole simulation. And yeah, so what I noticed was actually quite profound. I noticed that, so what I also did is I went to see a movie leading up to my birthday, and all they had at the movie theater was like burgers and pizza and stuff like that. It was actually pretty quality food. However, it was still like, again, it was still gluten, spicy stuff, greasy stuff. It was burger, it was meat, red meat, all the things that I cut out and I was detoxing from. And I had like an alcohol-free beer. However, it's still something that's fermented, and they don't recommend to necessarily do that either when you're weaning back off of the detox, because they want you to introduce things one at a time and not like together, so that you can notice what's happening in your body, how your body's responding. But again, it was a special occasion. I was with my friends, and it was my birthday, and we were seeing Deadpool 3, and which is hilarious, by the way. And I wanted to I love pairing those experiences with good food and good beverages. So I was just like, body, I trust that we'll be able to process this, and if it hits not in a good way, then I trust we can process it and be present with that. So, long story short, it was a pretty filling meal. I also noticed that everyone in the entire movie theater got their food, but they forgot my order. So again, it was almost like there was this resistance and like blocking me from trying this food, and but I did it anyway. And what I noticed was not what I expected. My body felt so good. Felt so good inside. Like nothing felt bloated, nothing felt icky, nothing like felt cloudy. I just felt nourished, and I still felt like all my cells vibrating at this, again, at the level it had been vibrating at throughout the week while I was in the detox. Which is interesting, again, because they say that when you're detoxing, it's your body is clearing out all the bad bacteria, but it clears out all the bacteria, even the good bacteria that, again, is there to absorb the foods that you typically eat. And so, yeah, and so I was like, man, we don't have the bacteria for meat and all these things. So it's going to be it's going to feel like a grinder in there. It's going to feel like, I'm going to feel the friction every step of the way. But no, it was total, felt so organic, so natural. Like I wasn't bloated, even though it was like a pretty big portion size. And I felt like if I had eaten that meal prior to the detox, I would have felt bloated, and it would have created these like gases. But yeah, to my surprise, it felt great. And then again, that kind of, I felt more and more, I just felt safer to eat different foods. So again, for my birthday, I introduced some of my favorite like snacks back into the equation, and we went and had this incredible Japanese multiple course meal, and had like these little crabs for the first time. And then we had some of the best ube cake in existence. It was like this spongy texture and consistency. It was so heavenly. And yeah, so from there, those days were a little lighter. And then going into the back end of the week, it was just kind of diving into the grind of ramping up with this company. They, again, threw me into the fire, gave me clients immediately, and it was overwhelming. And my typical strategy with that is, again, it's either exercise or going to scream in my car, or eating food, or binging social media or TV. Have all these different strategies of coping with that. Sometimes I'll meditate in a healthy way, but this time there was so much to do to get ramped up and to feel a level of competency, and time was collapsed on me that is almost like it put me in this pressure cooker and really, really tested me, and I medicated like crazy. I was eating like 4 or 5, 6 different food groups in one day. I just, some days I would just like crush a bag of snacks fully. And what was interesting then as well was, even though I was doing this, my body, the cloudiness didn't reach my mind. My body still felt coherent. It still felt fine. And now I understand this makes sense. So Dr. Naram, who is, again, one of the stewards of like these ancient sciences and this Siddha Veda practice and cooking and everything, he would say that whenever he say he it's not that he wouldn't enjoy the delicacies of life like eating pizza in Italy. However, he made sure that he was detoxing, or he was like on the mung bean diet several days before that, because it just, I don't know, I get it now. Like, it just, you can handle anything. Our body is so profoundly intelligent. And if we just give it the space to process in the way that it is naturally meant to, is intellectually meant to process, you truly can enjoy all the delicacies of this world. You just need to do it on the clock and on the intelligence of nature, i.e., your body and your digestive system. And so, got a little bit of light there. And so, yeah, getting all the way to Friday was the worst day. It was like the peak. It was where I started having a couple client calls. The stress was at an all-time high. And I wasn't planning on this, but the fish that they ended up getting me, again, I was just kind of like binge eating easy stuff and then stuff I didn't really have to cook. So I waited to eat this fish until the very last day where it says, eat by, cook by this date before it goes bad. And when fish is on the edge, it's typically either already gone bad or it's going to go bad. So cook the fish. Some of it tasted a little bit of funky. The rest of it tasted fine. But it was like 3 different fillets, and I ate it all or most of it because I didn't want it to go to waste. And fish isn't really good like when you chill it or when you put it in the refrigerator and eat it later. So, yep, ate it. And then I had a sound bath at the end of the day as well that I was facilitating with 2 of my favorite people. And about an hour after eating the fish, I started to notice this inflammation in my body. So this is when it really, again, I think it was either taking on the emotion that was already there, the stress that was already there, and maybe being a little rotten. Not too rotten, but just a little bit. There was like 1 or 2 bites I took from one of the fillets that was just like not fully the taste typically. So anyway, it didn't make me sick. However, I did feel inflamed. And I felt stressed, felt dysregulated. Hey, buddy. The dog just got caught on the phone. So we're good. And yeah, and then I went ahead and went to the sound bath, got there early, and one of my friends who I was doing the sound bath with they noticed that I was like knocking over shit and that I just wasn't fully present. And so they invited me to go in the meditation room and meditate a little bit. There was one of those vibration beds in there. I didn't know how to turn it on, but there was a weighted blanket and some headphones and an eye mask. So that was enough for me to just like be for a second and find my center. And I noticed in that moment that the part that I was sitting with, the part of myself I was sitting with, was the part that it was the child that was told to go in timeout back in school or back in daycare or wherever it was. Because I found myself in timeout a good bit. I've always been a rebel in that way. And so yeah, I sat with that part of myself who was just like really terrified to feel safe again, to come out of timeout. So it's almost felt like that part has been in this perpetual timeout my entire life. Yeah, so I sat with it. I loved it so much, so dearly, so deeply. And came back in, had an absolutely miraculous sound journey experience. Everyone sharing their intentions beforehand. We had a cacao ceremony before. And there's something different about this journey in that because I love that part of me, it also felt safe to express in an authentic way. So there were sounds that came out of my mouth in that journey that I had never done before. But I know it was so profound in the orchestration of the journey and what people needed to heal, whatever they were there to heal. And yeah, just felt this deeper sense of peace and meanness and connectedness to everyone and everything and safety and all those things that we long for. And so after that, it was very clear to me that it was time. I mean, I was starting to feel this before I even went to the journey. But it was very clear after that journey. Again, it was just as much for me as it was for everyone else. But I got the clarity that I needed to trust my heart. And I also was looking for people to kind of get reflections from, but it was really important for me to process this part on my own. And I got encouragement from friends to do that. And I came home here that night and just really sat with myself. And I was just like, yeah, this isn't what I want. I don't want to be on the computer like 15 plus hours of the day. And then at the end of the day, just feeling not human, not in my body, not healthy. And just, yeah, and just having to like self-medicate. And I'm not going to do that again. And I'm so grateful that my awareness, and this is largely because of the detox as well, my awareness has been heightened to where I know I don't numb, because I think what we do is like the innate clarity is always there when our body is drifting or out of alignment or it's experiencing dis-ease in the body and not harmony, not balance. I think it's very clear always, but again, we eat these foods and we've been conditioned to medicate and to numb these things. And so it's hard for us to have this conscious awareness of what our body and our intelligence is telling us, what God is telling us is steering us off path. And so now it's just very clear when that's happening, and I can just stop it immediately and be like, no, this isn't the thing. And I can trust, because of what I went through the past several months and putting myself in uncomfortable situations and just seeing the miracles happen anyway, and know that I'm taken care of and that I'm supported by everything and everyone and God. And you don't have to go through that process yourself to know that. I've found a lot of value in it. I've heard of it through other people, but it didn't really, again, it wasn't an embodied experience until I experienced it. And that you don't have to experience it in the way that I did. I think everyone embodies it in their own way, and it's important that you experience it in your own way. But if that's approaching for you, or you're in it, the invitation is that it's okay to feel it fully, because what's on the other side is everything and more. Even if it's other valleys, you know that you don't have to be afraid when going through the valleys anymore, because you know that when you're fully aware in those valleys, that's where the most beauty, it truly is, the most substance, the most vitality, the juice of the fruit of life Like without getting too seduced by it, right? So we can enjoy the fruits of life without the seduction. I think it's important to know that, and to honor our art and to honor our expression above everything, to honor our relationship to life. And I had another profound conversation today with a friend, and we were just talking about how what I've come, and then again today was amazing because once I told, and again I also am so proud of myself because typically I would say, oh, I'm going to sleep on it and then tell this person my truth tomorrow. I didn't do that. It was like midnight, maybe 11 o'clock. And I messaged the owner of the company that I was working with the past 2 weeks. And I was just like, hey, a part of me wants to stop working with clients. And then she immediately was like, and again, part of me was like, oh, like she's going to fight back and she's going to give me all these objections and reasons why that's not true. But no, like what's true for me is true for that. It's true for that person too. Like you just know. And so she immediately was like, oh, wow, I'm so glad that you spoke to that because I was feeling that too. And it wasn't this whole thing because I was just fully honest and transparent since the beginning. And we did the best that we could to navigate that situation. But yeah, I told her my truth and we concluded that it was for the highest good of everyone. Because they didn't have to train me. They could bring someone who's more experienced in the thing that they specifically needed. And just immediate, like, deep inner peace. And I already felt that before I even called, because what I do with these decisions is I calibrate, I tune into different timelines. And I'm like, which one is the most abundant, harmonious timeline of the highest good? And I'll tune into different realities and it'll just be, it's night and day. It's so clear. When I remove all the identities and all the thoughts and stories and objectives, I'm just like, body, God, like just tell me when I drop myself into this reality, how does it feel? And as soon as I start thinking about it and shifting into that, just deeper sense of peace than I've ever felt my entire life. And the inflammation in my body started to subside more and more. And there was a part of me that trusted me more, and the integrity within myself was built stronger. And as I came into the next day, I woke up and I had so much creative flow pour in. And I immediately made a story that was like, hey guys, I'm just feeling like I want to give. I'm in the mood of giving. Everyone gave me so much love during my birthday. I was like, I want to give. And if I were to provide like free sessions or something, I put a poll on Instagram to see what people would be interested in. If people are looking for support right now, because we're in the middle of like a big astrological like Lionsgate thing, and there's a lot of intensity in general, a lot of shifts going on at large, macro and micro. So yeah, I just want to connect with people and like again get back to what I love, which is honoring the inner child, honoring the artist. Because I know everything's possible through those things. Those are the archetypes that there's something to it. They truly seem like they're the roots and the resources for the fruits to flourish. And so I'm like, okay, it's time to just do this on a consistent basis and start helping people in the way that I know how, which is again honoring the inner child, the artist, helping them create harmonious relationships in their life, writing music and tapping into their voice and their expression and their heart song that they're here to bring to the world. And so, because again, we're basically creating containers for what we need the most. And so for me, what this has opened up is like, this has been looming, but I've been putting it off, is creating a weekly container where I can honor the artist and honor the inner child with other people. And this is likely going to happen on Mondays. Don't know what it's going to be called yet. Maybe like honor your artistry or something like that. Honor your innocence and artistry. Not sure yet. But it's basically just going to be, it's going to be a community call, and then we'll do some in-person things locally as well. But it's going to be a place where you can come and feel safe and empowered to express the part of yourself that has been dying to share something real for so long. I'm going to call it a play shop where, again, we're going to be writing and we're going to be singing together and singing individually and allowing each other to be fully tuned into each other's shares and not have any like leaky sexual energy, so that all parts of us can feel safe to express and not feel like prey or anything sexually. So important. That's what my spirit is wanting every single week. And so I'm gonna create a container essentially where we meet every week on Monday, for about an hour, and we will have different like exercises and workshops every single week, just because that's a skill set that I want to build, and like facilitating those things, helping people again tap into different parts of their voice, because that's what I've done with my sound baths and my sound journeys, and just writing new music. I've been able to play with different sounds and different archetypes, and just break out of the conditioning of me like growing up in choir. I loved choir when I was younger. However, I had this big identity around, I'm a tenor and I can only sing these like higher angelical melodies. No, man, I've been breaking into like some really funky, grungy, like gurry type vibes. And I've been rapping and things like that. And so I'm going to also bring in other inspiring facilitators. And we're specifically going to be focused on singing, dancing, and storytelling. And then nature is the other piece. And that will probably be maybe more of an in-person thing where we'll get in nature and do these things more. But from a virtual sense, I want to do it virtually just for convenience, and just an integrity within myself, to do that. Because again, this is a container I'm building just as much for me as is for everyone else. And I just want to invite people in to share that with, because then it will just perpetuate and grow. And I know the world is dying for more spaces like this, right? And so, yeah, I made a post about that, and what was different was so profound, in that other times I've like shifted things and clarity came in, but there was still like some kind of resistance, some level of resistance. Like even when you're driving a car, you still feel some level of resistance and friction between the wheels, the tires, and the road. Or like resistance as you move forward, even if it's very faint. This time, when I woke up this morning, it was more like a forward momentum with zero friction, where I wasn't even thinking. I was just taking action. I was literally just, I just made the post, didn't think about it, and it felt good, and there was no voice of judgment. It was like I was back in the child fully again. And it was like I was back on the playground again. Like, hey, guys, I have this game. It's going to happen every Monday. Would you guys want to come? If we showed up and we just wrote songs and sang, and you would be able to be surrounded by like-hearted community and express yourself authentically, and learn cool things about yourself. And I just did it. And so it didn't feel like this car that was still moving forward, but had some level of friction and resistance, or it had to leverage that. It just felt like I was flying, man. Like it was a futuristic car that didn't need tires or propulsion or the laws of physics. It just happened. And I can't remember the last time. It was probably when I was a child, but I can't remember the last time when it was that easy and that natural and that effortless. It wasn't just effortless. It was the absence of effort. And for that, I'm grateful. And so as this video comes to a close, I just want to let you know that, again, if you're in a weird place and you feel these densities in your body and you feel this chaos in your head and disconnection between your mind, body, and spirit in some way, and you resonate with what I'm sharing with you because your spirit and your soul knows what that is and what that's like at a core level, but you haven't experienced that in your body fully yet. I invite you into this community to start tapping into that. I imagine we won't just do the weekly stuff, but maybe every month or every quarter we'll do like a 7-day like detox like I did. And I'm welcoming people in. It's free right now. There will probably be a link below. If not now, then at some point to a group. I'm just gonna make a small group either on WhatsApp or Telegram. You'll see the link to that below. If not, then reach out to me on Instagram and I'll get it to you because I'm going to be creating that today. And it gets to be that simple, you know. I set a time every Monday that everyone's available, and we get to come together and just share our light and our darkness, share all of it, all aspects of us, through song, through music, through vibration, through frequency. These concepts that are finally helping us come back to our divine essence. And the final thing that I'll share with you today, the realization that I had was, again, coming back to fully that child experience. Because remember, children don't even really they obviously have a sense of, oh, I may eventually, like when they're not a baby anymore, obviously when they're a baby, they're just everything. They really don't have a sense of self or I. But when they're getting into like the toddler ages and even like young adolescents and things like that, they still don't really have a sense of separation. Like they know that, oh, I'm in a body, but I have a name, but they don't really feel the sense of separation, right? They don't have all the stories and the conditioning and the beliefs, the disempowering beliefs and things like that. But at some point they were told about the concept of self. Right? I think the concept, like just referring to yourself as I, like I am Connor, and then the concept of self is so different. Because I think self is just another extension. It's just like another identity from who we actually are. And so all these like different labels, they have the hyphen like self-love, self-empowerment, self-development, same thing personal, same thing self and personal, right? So then it's like it's almost like we created those things as a scapegoat or a way to dissociate from the conditioning that we took on unconsciously. And it's like we dissociated from that and we created this new identity of like the self to survive. and to preserve some sense of like unity, and like it's a relationship to the soul. Um, and now it's time to just renounce that, and that the self has played its part, and it no longer needs to bear the burden. There no longer needs to be this constant reminder and affirmation that it's enough, and that it's worthy, and it doesn't need to be judged anymore. We don't need to judge it, because my good friend and I were talking about this today. He noticed that there was a judger of the judger. He was judging himself, judging the self. And so when he shifted that and he lifted that second tier of judgment, or he shifted that to more of just unconditional love and acceptance for all the parts, even the judging parts, just so it's holding the frequency of unconditional love and no judgment for all of you. Both how you identify here in this body and then also in others around you. I'm already noticing a shift in my body as I speak this, because it's so true. We no longer need this archetype of self, this sense of self. I can still be me. I can still be Connor. I can still be the artist Honor. I can still be me in this body and have my own experience and feel safe in that and feel secure in that, without creating this thing called self. Oh, and I can just feel it like melting and dissolving from my body right now, because that's all that it's wanted for so long. It's played its role, but it's just ready. It's ready to let go. It's ready to die and transform, transmute, and all the trans words that we use into art and into the love that we're here to bring to the world in so many ways. And this is only the beginning. And this is a very important video. That's why I was feeling this build up today. And any remaining inflammation that was in my body is now fully dissolved. Now we get to create all that we're here to create. Wow. My wish is that you feel this too, even watching the replay of this. All right. Well, we're approaching an hour. I want to thank you so much for watching this. Whether you skip through to this part or you watch the whole thing, I love you so much. If any of this resonated with you, please reach out. I'd love to connect. It is time. It is time. Oh, I'm buzzing in the best of ways. All right, so with that, I'll bask in this in another way. It won't just sit here. I'm basking in it for a prolonged period of time. But again, thank you for being here. I love you so much. And this is the prompt that I gave people. I got this from the teachers of this program and Dr. Kurt Rogers and Naram. And I invited this for the people who were at the sound journey yesterday after their experience, was journal to this prompt and ask yourself, what did love teach me today? What love taught me today was that I get to love and let go and free the self that seemed to have been sitting as a placeholder for me to remember and for me to feel safe enough to facilitate miracles. Wow, what a gift. So I'd love for you to answer that for yourself as well. Journal on it. Let me know in the comments what you answer to that. And like I said, join our community, reach out, let's connect one-on-one. I'm also open to start having conversations to see how I can support people one-on-one. And basically, we'll set up a call and we'll dive into it together and we'll see if things are aligned on the journey. But I really just am so ready for service right now, and healing together and creating beauty and miracles and art together. All right. Well, I'll see you very soon. Logging off now.